If you're building your security program first, then developing metrics later, you're doing it backwards. Those are vanity metrics, and as the name implies, they only serve to inflate your ego. I'm going to show you how to build real metrics that actually drive your program to success. Hey, I'm Chad Butler. I'm an entrepreneur and former cybersecurity executive. I built security programs at Amazon, SAP, Disney. 24 years in, I've seen what works and sadly what doesn't work. So here's my promise for this video. After watching, you'll be able to first rethink how you approach security metrics entirely. Second, you'll learn how to integrate the OpenSSF Scorecard into your GitHub repositories. And third, you'll use those metrics to actually improve your security posture, not just report on it. Okay, so if you want to follow along, you'll need a GitHub account repository in about 10 minutes. That's it. Let's go ahead and jump in. Most security teams build their program first and then scramble to create metrics at the end. These become vanity metrics. When I was at AWS, we had a clear measuring stick for metrics. If you didn't run your business from your metrics, they were vanity metrics. If you spent time scrambling to prepare metrics right before a business review meeting, those were vanity metrics. They look good in business review slides, but they really don't help you run your program. They don't drive the outcomes, they just prove you did some work, but they don't even prove you did the right work. So let me give you an analogy. Let's think about test-driven development for a second. In test-driven development, you take a small feature or user story and write the test for that feature before you even write a single line of code. That test starts in a failing state. Then you write just enough code to make it pass. Then you move on to the next user story. You write a test that fails, you write just enough code to make it pass, and then the process repeats. So metric-driven security works the same way. And the first step, where you start from, is to determine what the business actually needs. You ask your stakeholders, what happens if we're breached? What do customers expect from us? And what compliance certifications do we need to make? Next, you develop metrics that track progress towards the outcomes the business needs. Not generic metrics, but specific ones tied to business impact. Step 3 is to publish those metrics. They'll fail at first, and that's the point. Now, this can be super hard for insecure leaders, but it's important. First of all, it demonstrates the need for your program, and it clearly shows progress as you make it. Next, you build a program to improve those metrics. You're working backward from outcomes the business cares about, and you show progress as you go. Now, the biggest mistake people make is this. They measure things that are easy to measure instead of things that matter. There's a quick fix for that. Start every conversation about metrics with one question. What impact do we want to drive, and how will we know when we get there? Now, that sounds deceptively simple, but you'd be surprised how many people don't do it this way. And please don't get hung up on how to implement those metrics just yet. So now that you understand the metric-driven approach, let me show you a tool that embodies this philosophy, the OpenSSF Scorecard. OpenSSF stands for the Open Source Security Foundation. It's part of the Linux Foundation. And their scorecard automatically assesses your GitHub repositories, and it suggests practical ways to improve. And just like we discussed with metric-driven security, there's a good chance that many of the metrics will be failing right out of the box, but it shows you how to fix them. So let's walk through how to implement the OpenSSF Scorecard in your repository. Okay, so here I've got a repository that I want to set up OpenSSF Scorecard in. First thing to do is to navigate to your repository security tab, and then we're going to click Setup Code Scanning. Now you can see I've already got a tool set up here, and so I'm going to click the Explore Workflow. And here I want to search for OSSF Scorecard. I'll click Configure. And you always want to make sure that you review workflows before you commit them. Make sure you're comfortable with what it's doing. When you're ready, go ahead and click Commit Changes. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is add the Scorecard Badge to our README file. And to do that, I'm going to browse to the OpenSSF Scorecard documentation. Once you find the section on Scorecard Badges, go ahead and navigate to that. And we're going to copy this section here. Okay, once you've got that copied, head back over to your repository. And we're going to open the README file and add that somewhere. So I'm going to go ahead and edit this directly in the browser. And I'm going to put this with some of the other badges here. So right on top, I'll paste that in. Now there's a few things that we need to change here. First of all, there's 2 places where owner is defined. And so I need to go in and put my owner name in there. And if you don't know where that is, just look up above in the URL bar for your username and your repository name. And then the next thing I need to do is grab my repository name, and I'm going to replace this repos section again in both places. Now, once you've done that, you can go ahead and commit the change. And now you see that you have this new OpenSSF Scorecard badge on your README page. So let's go ahead and click that and see what it says. And you see here, I get an overall score of 4.6, which is not great. And you can see that there's several things that are called out as being red or high risk. Now what's great about this is that I can click into any of those and see what it's expecting me to do. So let's pick branch protection. It gives me a reason and a little bit more detail here, but then if I click the check documentation, it'll tell me exactly what it's expecting to see. So for each check, it'll help you know exactly what is expected and what will help you improve that score. Now if we go back to our repository, let's check the security tab. So you notice we've got some findings here under code scanning. So the scorecard is actually going to open security issues within your repository for those issues that it flags as security risks. So again, if we look at that code review issue, it'll show us exactly what we need to do. Now, one more thing, if you're wondering about using this for private repositories and you don't necessarily want to display your score to the whole world, OpenSSF also publishes Docker images and standalone tools that you can use for this purpose. So here you can see in the docs, in addition to the GitHub action, there's also a REST API and there's command line interface options here, including a Docker image that you can pull to run these things internally. Okay, so let's recap what you just learned. First, you flip your metrics mindset. You define the business needs first, you build metrics second, and then you build a program to improve those metrics. You've also learned how to integrate the OpenSSF Scorecard into your GitHub repositories, and you also learned how to use Scorecard documentation to drive actual security improvements, not just track vanity metrics. All right, so this walkthrough was actually a summary of one of the lessons from my course, DevSecOps Pro. If you like this and want to dive deeper, you can check it out. The link's in the description. Now, as always, if you found this helpful, please hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.